What's up, nerds? I'm Wes from Nevermore Gaming. We are back taking a look at Santorini again, but this time it's Santorini, New York. If you haven't watched our thoughts on the base game of Santorini, I definitely recommend you click the card and watch that video as well, because the basic premise of the game is the same. So I'm not just going to completely rehash that entire video here, although I will give you a really brief synopsis on how that game works, or at least how those mechanics are in this game. So the basic premise of the game is that every turn you will move your character and then build a building or a structure or one of these things. And you can move orthogonally or diagonally, and you can build orthogonally or diagonally, and you can move up one level at a time. So you can go from the base level to level 1 to level 2 to level 3, and you win the game if you can get one of your characters onto level 3. And because you have to move and then build, you have to make sure that you've built that level 3 and that nobody else can get on there before you have the opportunity to do it. Now, one of the other changes in this version of the game is that you have the Statue of Liberty, and you have to have the Statue of Liberty in order to win the game. And the way that this passes around is probably the biggest difference between the base game of Santorini and Santorini, New York. And that's in the base game of Santorini, the basic premise is what I already described, is that you move and then you build. And then if you play the advanced version, which is the only version I think that's even worth playing, is that each character has a special ability or a special power, something unique to their characters that they can do that give you a lot of uniqueness to the game. Now in Santorini, New York, instead of having a unique power for your characters, instead you have 4 different powers in the game. Now the engineer is going to be in every game because it does offer you an alternate win condition, and it also lets you build one of these really cool skyscrapers, which I mostly just kind of add to the thematics of it's New York, and these are all recognizable buildings from New York, but it also kind of helps you block stuff off and really try to corner people or mess up someone's move. And there's also some other cards in the game that are affected by these skyscrapers. But the other 3 characters in the game are going to change game to game. So you have a green, a purple, and an orange, and you have a couple different options for each of those colors that you're going to pick which one you're playing with in that game. So in the setup I have here, we're playing with the orange crane operator, the purple NYPD officer, and the green tour bus driver. So these are the 4 different abilities that exist within this game. Those 3 I mentioned, and then of course the engineer. And instead of those being unique to each player, instead there's a deck of cards with these different abilities on there, and you deal out a hand of 5 cards to all the players, and we are going to simultaneously select the card from our hand that we want to play. We all flip up and then take our turns. And then in addition to the abilities being on those cards are also numbered, and starting with the lowest number proceeding to the highest number is how you actually determine turn order from game to game. And then whoever does play that highest number card is going to take the Statue of Liberty. So in addition to having to move to a 3rd level after you move and then build, so there has to be a 3rd level, no one else takes it, and then you get to go take it, you also have to go last in the game. So it definitely is trickier to win this game because there's like that extra stipulation of you have to have the Statue of Liberty, so you have to have gone last. Although if you are able to play an engineer card, you do have the alternate win condition of if you build a rooftop piece while possessing the Statue of Liberty, you can also win. So they definitely do help out. That's probably a more realistic way that you're going to see people win this game. But that simultaneous selection of the abilities that you're going to play in this game is absolutely the biggest difference in the game. Everything else is pretty much the same, and you can pretty much play base Santorini right out of this box. If you just don't do the draft, you take turns, you don't use skyscrapers, that is like the base Santorini without any abilities as well. This version also is designed to work better with a higher player count, where the original Santorini could go up to 4 players. It's really recommended that you play with 2. In this game, they do make it a lot easier to play with 4 players, just with the simultaneous action selection and the fact that the first player changes every single time depending on which card you play, makes it a lot easier to play with more actual teams. And you actually have, like, all 4 players will have their own player colors, instead of, like, in the base game Santorini, you like team up against each other. Now, if you watched my video on the base game of Santorini, then you probably heard my complaints that a lot of the game felt like playing tic-tac-toe, and it's a lot of reaction. And okay, you do this, so I'm going to obviously do this to counter it. And then you do this to counter what I did, and then I do this to recounter what you did. And it's a lot of just back and forth until somebody either slips up, or you do have the opportunity to out-strategize them. But it does feel a lot of just back and forth. This game definitely improves upon that because you do have the alternating player powers. You do have the simultaneous selection. You have a lot more like choices to make because when do you want to play this card and what cards do I think they're going to play? So like you can really figure out between the powers and the numbers and the turn order how you want to go. So I did enjoy Santorini, New York. I think I enjoyed it better than base game Santorini. I played both these with my wife. She actually enjoyed the base game better, which I guess kind of makes sense because I'm more of a gamer and she's more of a casual, like, I'm happy to play a game with you kind of person. So it does kind of make sense that she preferred that one that was a little bit less complicated, and I preferred the one that was a little bit more complicated. Although I definitely have complaints with each of the games that, you know, they improved this, but it led to this complaint, and that game didn't have it, but because it didn't have the action selection, it led to other complaints. All in all, I definitely did enjoy Santorini, New York, though, and if you're looking to pick up a copy, I'm going to put a purchase link down in the description box down below where you can get a copy. Just below that is going to be a link to Game Toppers where you can check out this awesome table that I'm playing on, and as always, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you'll never be bored.